This is going to be a tutorial on importing custom models in Spongebob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom using Industrial Park. I know I already have made a tutorial on this subject, but it's been a while since the last tutorial I made for BFBB. You see, Industrial Park has already received a few updates, and although there weren't any major changes to the workflow, there are a couple new features which make everything a lot easier, at least in my opinion, and I'm going to show a bit of them to you as well. So there's a couple of things I want to show you in this tutorial. For starters, we're going to add a simple model to the game, and then we're going to see how we can use custom models to create an entire level using the blank hip and hop files. So to start, I'm going to open 3ds Max and I'm going to make a teapot in it just so that we have a model which we can put in the game. I'm gonna make the radius of this 1. I'm not entirely sure how big this will end up in the game. I think SpongeBob is about 1 unit tall in the game, so if this teapot has a radius of 1, then it's gonna be about as big as SpongeBob. But we have to test. Every time that you're going to import new models to the game, you have to test a bit to see if their scale is about the size that you want it to be. So I'm going to center the position of the teapot and I'm going to give it a texture. I'm going to split a few parts of the teapot so we can give it different textures. I know there's probably a better way to do this, but I'm not too experienced with 3ds Max. So I have the textures right here. I'm gonna apply this texture to this part and this one here. And attach the parts together again so it's one single model. And we're going to export this to the game. So I'm gonna open Industrial Park. This is preview 43. Depending on when you're going to be watching this tutorial, you might be using a newer version, but I don't recommend using an older one unless you have a very specific reason why you want to. And even if so, then you should try and talk to me and tell me why you are using an older version. Is it working better for you? So I'm gonna open a level in it. If you have set this option for association of hip and hop files, then you can just double click a hip or hop file and it will open it straight away in Industrial Park. And you can also drag files to open it. So I'm going to open the hip and the hop. And one thing that you might have noticed is that I didn't need to extract the textures of the level and put them in a separate folder so Industrial Park will display them. This is an addition in one of the latest updates. Industrial Park is able to display textures straight from the hop file without needing to use them from an external folder. You can still do that if you want to. The option is here if you want to load alternate textures or something. But if you don't do that, then it's going to use the texture straight from the hop. So that's pretty neat. So we're going to import the teapot, and to do that I'm going to export it as, let me see, I'm going to put it right here in this folder as an obj file, obj object. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm just going to name it teapot. And for the sake of the example, I'm also going to export it as an FBX file. What is it? So teapot.fbx. And I'm also going to use the DFF export plugin to export it straight as a DFF. So teapot.dff, these are the settings. JVC VC 3.4. Now the reason I'm doing this is because DFF is the model format that is used by the game, So you can use the plugin to export from 2ds Max straight into DFF, but Industrial Park can also create the DFF itself. We're gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna rename it so the files don't have the same names. Teapot DFF, teapot FBX, and teapot OBJ. Let's choose one of the model layers. I'm gonna add a model layer here. So I've added a new layer, set it to model, and I'm gonna use the import models function that we have right here. So you can just select the files that you want to import and click OK, and that's it. The models are already here in the hop, ready to be used. So you see the DFF, it wasn't converted because the game already uses DFF as its model format, but the FBX and the object, they were converted to DFF by Industrial Park's converter. And you can also use, there's a lot of other model formats which it supports. I'm going to show you real quickly. There's a whole list of models right here. This is because I'm now using a simp, open asset, I forgot the name of the thing. It doesn't really matter. It lets you import a lot of model formats. I'm not sure how well each of those work. I just use FBX because it works very well for me, and you should use that format as well. But if you find another one which works for you, then that's great. So now on to actually using these DFFs in the level. I'm gonna use the hip and the default layer, and I'm gonna use a template placed right now. Template placeable simp generic. So the template focus here and place the template here. So the simp is here. It doesn't have a model because we haven't set it to use one yet, but we're gonna do that now. I'm gonna copy this and paste it here on model asset ID. Doesn't work. I don't know why this sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. But so I'm just gonna type the name of the model here instead. teapot BFF.BFF. So yeah, it's huge. And it's rotated sideways. It shouldn't be like that. There's a couple of ways to fix this. Well, the simplest way right now is just to use this Industrial Park's rotate gizmo to set it up right like this, minus 90 degrees pitch, and the scale to make it smaller. This shouldn't be a definitive solution though, because what you want to do is scale it in your model editor and not scale it here in Industrial Park, because it will usually work better if the scale here is able to be left at 1. But just for the sake of testing, this is okay. So the teapot doesn't have any textures, because although I added the custom textures to it in 3ds Max, I haven't imported them here yet. I'm gonna do that right now. So in the texture layer, I'm gonna use import textures. And I'm just gonna select the textures that I want to import. So as you can see, the textures are here. The teapot is textured, and that was really simple. Like, you didn't need to use magic.txt to do that. You didn't need to export all the textures, then import them all again. You can still do that if you want to, and if you're going to import like an entire level, or if you want to set individual settings for textures, which you can do in magic.txt, you can do that. But for simple things like this, it's not needed. There's one thing about this model though. Let me open the model that it's using. If you take a look here, the colors, are set to this gray color. I don't really know why this is done. I think 3ds Max sets this for some reason. I'm just gonna set this to white. This doesn't make any difference here in Industrial Park, but in game, the model is gonna look a bit brighter than it would if we just let it the gray that it was before. So I'm just gonna save this and save the hip as well and test this in game to see if it works. I have to set the sb.ini file to start illustrating jellyfish field, so you don't have to go all the way there.
Hills of jellyfish.
So it worked, and if you take a look at the other models that I imported, you see that it's not going to be much different. This is sideways. In fact, it's not sideways. See, the DFF export, it turned out sideways, the FBX one did not, and I think the object one wouldn't either. You have to play a bit with it to see what works best for you. But in the end, once you get the hang of it and you see how quick it is to import new models, it's going to become very simple. So for the second part of this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a custom level for BFBB using the method that we just learned to import models. So I have here this model, which is taken from Mario Kart 64, I think. And we're gonna put it in BFBB as a standalone level. So first of all, open Industrial Park. It's gonna open with the levels that we had before, but I'm just gonna close that. This is what we're going to do. Go to Options and click Download Industrial Park Editor Files. This is going to download a bunch of stuff from a GitHub repository into your computer, so it might take a while. It's downloading. There, it's done. And it should be here in Resources, Industrial Park Editor Files. Now, there's a bunch of stuff here. I've talked about this in a previous video already, I think. I don't know, it's been a while since I made them. But right now, what we want is these files, the blank.hip and blank.hop. Copy them and put them in the game. Now, where you're going to put them, it depends on which level you want to replace or add to. I'm just going to use JF. Put them here. Let me get rid of all of this. This isn't needed by the game. So blank.hip and blank.hop. I'm gonna rename them to JF05. So we all know that there isn't a Jellyfish Fields Part 5 in the game, but we're gonna add one to it. On sp.e add make you start on JF05 and open the files in Industrial Park. So I'm just gonna drag them here. Now you see that there isn't really anything in the file. That's why they were called blank.hip and hop. These files, they only have a few assets in them, and they are the basics that the game needs to be able to open a level. So This will already work in-game, although there isn't much that you will be able to do in the level. You're just gonna be SpongeBob falling in the blank void. So it's perfect for us to start making our custom levels in. I have the model that I want to import, and I already have it exported here. In this folder, we have all the textures, and we have the model in a couple of different formats. DAE, FBX, object, there's a couple of objects. So here on the hop, I'm going to add a new layer, make it a model layer, import models, and choose the model that I want to import, which is going to be this one, title.fbx. Now add a texture layer, import textures, select all the textures from the folder. It's going to convert all the textures. So if you selected a lot at the same time, this is going to take a while, but they're here now. I'm going to select this tool, which is collapse layers. This will reorder the layers in the way that the game expects them to be. Save this. And here I'm going to add the simp template. Edit data, set the position to 0, and set the model asset ID to the ID of the model that we imported, which is untitled.bff. So the model is huge, like it's very big. Like I said, the best thing to do when this happens is to, I don't even know how to scale this. Let me make the scale very small. Right, I think it should be too small now. I'm just trying random values to see which one looks best. There's no real way to tell that here since we don't have a reference. This is SpongeBob, the player asset. This is where the player will start at. So from this, I think the size is good for testing. Maybe it's still a bit too big. Like I said before, you're gonna have to play with it a bit to see if it's the size that you want it to be. This should work in game already. Let me save this and save the hop. I don't remember if I saved it. So as you can see, it's working almost perfectly. It's a bit big, so we can scale it down a bit. Okay, this is a bit difficult to work with because it's in such a small scale, 0.01. Like I said, the best thing now is to edit the model in your model editor so it's not too big. But one thing that I noticed is that the textures, they are all upside down. You can see that there. So there is a quick way to fix that, which is to import the textures again. and select the textures, and when I do that, I check flip vertically. Textures are good now. And the other thing is, you notice that the sky had that weird effect in which like it didn't update, so there was an after image effect sort of thing there. The same thing that happens in Patrick's dream if you access it without adding a custom skybox. The best way to fix that is just to add your own skybox or get another one from one of the stages in the game, which, yeah, I'm gonna do that now. So I'm gonna open JF01 in another industrial park instance. So both are here. And I'm gonna see what are the assets which make up this skybox and just copy them from one instance to the other. So we have this plat, which is skydome mesh 01. Copy it, place it here in the hip. I'm gonna copy and paste it in the same default layer of the hip. So it's here. It doesn't have the motto or anything like that yet. So the motto it uses, let me find the model asset ID, it's called skydome JF. So let's look for that in the hop. Skydome JF, the model, copy the model, paste it here in the hop. It can get confusing to have so much, like there's 2 industrial park instances open, there's 4 archive editors. It can get confusing. Don't do this if you think that you're gonna mess stuff up. But once you start working with it a lot, you start getting used to it. And it becomes much easier to know where everything is. So the model is here already, but it doesn't have textures, so I'm gonna take a look at the textures that are used by the model. You can see the textures in this window. It's only one, JF Sky Color. Copy that. Find that here. JF Sky Color, texture, copy. I'm gonna close this now. In the texture layer, paste it. So as you can see, Skybot should work in the game now. I'm gonna save it and test. So that's it. These were the basics of creating a custom level in BFBB with custom models and everything. I hope that you understood everything. I hope I was clear. If you have any questions or any comment that you want to make, just tell me about it. I'll try to answer you. One thing I haven't said in this tutorial is that when you create, when you import models to the game, there is like a maximum size that they can be. And this size, I'm not talking about the size as in the scale. Like the model can be as big as you want in like a physical size, as long as it doesn't have such a huge amount of vertices and triangles. So if your model starts getting too complex, there is a possibility that the game won't be able to render it properly or will crash when trying to load it. So in that case, you need to split the model into more parts and make each part a separate model asset, separate simp asset. So with all the features of importing models and textures and copying assets, doing all of that should be a lot easier now in Industrial Park, especially when compared to the workflow that was done before. If you've watched the previous model importing tutorial, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff that's changed, a lot of stuff that's easier now. So I'm always working to improve Industrial Park, make its workflow easier, trying to spread the word about it, make it easier so more people will want to use it and mod the game. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions about future tutorials that you want me to make, subjects about modding this game that you want to cover, even stuff regarding the other games like the movie games, Scooby-Doo, and the Incredibles games, which most of what I said here should work just the same. You can also tell me about it, and yeah, see you next video.